Why do so many regret moving into a nursing home? Inside these walls hide 6 disturbing truths, secrets no one dares to tell. And once you know them, you will never look at nursing homes the same way again. Why I regret moving into a nursing home. 6 hard truths you must know. I arrived with hope in my heart. The polished floors gleamed under the fluorescent lights. The air smelled of disinfectant, sharp and bitter. Smiles from the staff felt rehearsed, like masks worn for a play. I was told this place would feel safe. I was told I would never feel alone. But silence filled the hallways at night. Only the sound of wheels squeaking on cold tiles echoed in the dark. Meals arrived on trays, always lukewarm, always the same. The food lacked flavor, and so did the conversations. Residents stared into space, eyes clouded, voices faint. Time slowed, each hour heavy, dragging across my chest. I tried to rest, but sleep was restless. Shadows on the walls seemed to move when no one walked past. Doors opened slightly, then closed again without a knock. My heart raced every time I heard whispers in the hallway. When I asked the nurse, she said it was only my imagination. Yet I knew what I heard. Laughter, faint and unsettling, slipping under my door. It grew louder on nights when the wind howled outside. And one evening, as I reached for the call button, the button itself was gone. Only an empty hole in the wall stared back at me. That was the first of the 6 truths I learned here. The promise of safety is an illusion. The second truth revealed itself when I understood the silence. It was not peace. It was not calm. It was absence. An emptiness that pressed against my ears until I could hear the throb of my own pulse. I noticed how the staff never lingered. They moved quickly, eyes avoiding contact. Every smile ended before it reached their eyes. When I asked for company, I was told they were busy. When I asked for help, they said, "In a moment." That moment stretched into hours. I was left staring at the beige walls, where cracks shaped strange patterns that looked like faces. I wondered if I was imagining them, but sometimes the faces seemed to shift when I looked too long. That was the second truth. Loneliness here is louder than any crowd. It eats at you slowly until you no longer recognize your own voice. The third truth arrived during the night rounds. I pretended to sleep, but I kept my eyes barely open. I watched the staff enter rooms without knocking. They whispered to one another as they checked drawers, as if looking for something. Sometimes they took belongings, small things like watches, photographs, and books, things that meant everything to the people here. I heard an old man shout once. He cried that his wedding ring was gone. By morning, his bed was empty. No explanation. No goodbyes. His name tag was removed, and another resident took his place. I asked where he went, but no one answered. That was the third truth. In this place, possessions vanish, and sometimes people vanish with them. The fourth truth came during meals. The food was more than bland. It tasted wrong. At first, I thought it was just me, but then I noticed how many trays were left untouched. The meat was soft, too soft, with a metallic tang that lingered. The vegetables looked fresh, but carried a chemical bitterness. I began to feel weak after eating. My body grew heavier each day. Others whispered about it too. One woman said she no longer felt her legs after supper. Another said her vision blurred after breakfast. But the nurses smiled and told us we were fine. That was the fourth truth. Food here takes more than it gives. The fifth truth struck me harder than all the others. It happened in the common room. Television flickered on the wall, showing old shows in endless reruns. Residents sat in their chairs, motionless, eyes locked on the screen. I thought they were simply tired, until I noticed they barely blinked. Their mouths hung slightly open, breath shallow. It was as if something in the air had drained them. I touched one woman on the arm. Her skin was cold, and she did not move. I whispered her name, but she did not answer. The nurse came and wheeled her away, saying she had only fallen asleep. But I knew what sleep looked like. And this was not sleep. That was the fifth truth. Not everyone here is alive in the way you think. Some walk, some sit, some even smile. But something vital is gone. The sixth truth revealed itself when I tried to leave. One afternoon, I asked about visiting the garden. The nurse said the gates were locked for safety. I asked when they would unlock them. She smiled and said, "Never." That word froze in my chest. I went to the front entrance. The doors were glass, and I could see sunlight spilling through. I pressed my hands against the cool surface. It did not move. I pulled harder. Still nothing. Behind me, a voice whispered, "You cannot leave." I turned. It was not a nurse. It was a resident, thin and pale, eyes sunken deep. He said he had been here for years. He said no one leaves on their own. Only when the staff decides. Only when they say your time is finished. That was the sixth truth. Freedom here is a story they tell to keep you quiet. And once you know it, you understand the real reason why people vanish. I stepped back from the doors, heart pounding. The room spun, and the air felt thin. I realized the laughter I heard at night was not my imagination. It was real. It came from those who once tried to leave. Their voices echo in the halls, warning the rest of us. I returned to my room and sat on the bed. The shadows moved again across the walls. The faces in the cracks were clearer now. They seemed to smile. And in that moment, I understood the final weight of my choice. I had walked willingly into this place, believing in safety, believing in comfort. But now I see the truth. 6 hard truths that no one tells you before you sign the papers. Safety is an illusion. Loneliness is louder than silence. Possessions vanish, and people with them. Food weakens more than it feeds. Some who sit beside you are no longer alive in spirit. And freedom is only a story. The walls closed in on me, thick with the smell of chemicals. The call button was still gone. The laughter outside my door grew louder again. This time it called my name. The laughter outside my door grew louder again. This time it called my name. I froze, unable to breathe. The sound was high and sharp, like children playing in an empty playground at night. It echoed down the hallway, though I knew no children lived here. I pressed my back against the bed frame, my palms slick with sweat. The shadows on the wall stretched longer, reaching for me. The cracks in the paint seemed to open wider, like mouths whispering secrets. I told myself it was the wind, but the windows did not open. They had been sealed long ago. My throat felt tight, my chest heavy. I forced myself to the door. I turned the handle slowly, my hand trembling. The hallway was empty. The fluorescent lights buzzed, some flickering like dying stars. The laughter had stopped, but the silence that followed felt even worse. I stepped out, my bare feet cold against the tiles. Each step echoed louder than it should have, bouncing against the walls. I moved toward the common room. Chairs were lined in neat rows, facing the silent television. Several residents still sat there. Their bodies were upright, but their heads drooped to the side. Their mouths hung open. Their eyes were wide, glassy, staring at nothing. I whispered, asking if they were all right. No one moved. No one even blinked. It was as if time had stopped around them. I reached for the nearest one, an old man with silver hair. The moment I touched his hand, his head snapped toward me. His eyes locked on mine, unblinking, unbreathing. And then his lips moved, but no sound came out, only the faint hiss of air, like a broken radio. I stumbled back, my chest pounding. The others began to turn their heads too, one by one, their eyes fixed on me, mouths opening, silent voices, forming shapes I could not understand. I ran. My legs carried me down the corridor, past the nurse's station. The desk was empty. No staff in sight. I searched for the exit doors again. They loomed at the end of the hall, glass glinting under the pale lights. I pushed, I pulled, I slammed my fists. But the doors refused to move. I shouted, my voice breaking, but no one came. Behind me, I heard the wheels of a chair rolling. Slow, deliberate. The sound drew closer, scraping against the floor. I turned, and in the shadows, I saw a figure. It was a woman in a wheelchair, her body frail, her face gaunt. She smiled at me, but her smile was wrong. Too wide, too still. Her lips moved, whispering words I could barely hear. You belong here now. My breath caught in my throat. I stumbled backward, pressing my back against the locked doors. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, reflecting something unnatural. The wheels of her chair creaked as she rolled closer. The air grew colder. I could see my breath in front of me. She raised one hand, thin and trembling, and pointed at me. Her voice grew louder, echoing through the hall. They will take what is left of you. I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. I screamed that I wanted to leave, that I had not agreed to this. But she only laughed, a sound that matched the voices I had heard outside my door. The walls trembled as if the building itself was alive. Lights flickered, then went out. I stood in darkness. Only the sound of the chair wheels remained, circling me. My hands searched the walls, desperate for a way out. I found a small door, half hidden by shadows. I yanked it open and slipped inside. The room was narrow, filled with pipes and wires. The air was damp and heavy with the smell of rust. I pressed my back against the door, holding it shut, but I could still hear her voice, muffled but clear. You cannot escape the 6 truths. My legs gave out, and I slid to the floor. Every sound of dripping water echoed like a clock, ticking away. I realized then that time itself no longer belonged to me. It belonged to this place, and to whatever watched from the cracks in the walls. The laughter rose again, surrounding me, seeping into my ears. I covered my face, trembling, but the voices pressed closer, whispering my name over and over, until it felt carved into my skull. And in that moment, I finally understood. The 6th truth was not just that freedom was gone. The 6th truth was that the nursing home was never a home at all. It was something else, something alive, something feeding, and I had already given it more than I could ever take back. I do not know how long I stayed in that hidden room. The pipes groaned. The walls dripped with water that tasted of metal. Time felt like it had stopped, or perhaps time had left me behind. When I finally stepped out, the hallway was quiet again. The lights burned steadily, as if nothing had happened. The common room was empty. The doors were still locked, and my room waited for me, the bed neatly made, as though I had never left. I sat down, my body trembling, my hands weak. I knew then that escape was no longer possible, not in the way I once believed. The 6 truths had already taken root inside me. Safety is an illusion. Loneliness is louder than silence. Possessions vanish, and people vanish with them. Food weakens more than it feeds. Some who sit beside you are no longer alive in spirit, and freedom is only a story. These truths are the price of this place. They are the whispers that fill the night. They are the weight pressing on my chest when I try to sleep, and now I share them with you, because one day you may face the same choice. One day you may believe the promise of comfort. One day you may step into a place like this, thinking it is home. Remember my words. Remember what waits behind the polished floors and painted smiles. Remember the 6 truths, for they will find you, just as they found me. And when they do, you will understand why I regret moving into a nursing home. Not because of age, not because of weakness, but because I handed over my freedom the moment I walked through those doors. And freedom, once lost here, never returns.